Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being part of Joy Asonye Live, and I apologize for keeping you waiting there, but we are here and the show must go on. As usual, we'll be talking about trending political stories and economic stories like we would do today, where we'll be talking about how we can survive the end of the fuel subsidy regime as prices keep fluctuating. Since the 29th of May, when President Bola Tinubu picked a battle that many Nigerian leaders over the years avoided, some fought and lost, which is the total removal of fuel subsidy. Its attendant ripple effect, which includes the reviewed pump price of petrol from 189 naira to 570 naira, and then now, which is at 617 naira per litre, has been received by Nigerians with horror, as the move has affected prices of commodities, transportation, services, among others. Although the Senate President recently, that's Senator Godswill Akpabio, recently promised workers would have their salaries reviewed upwards, what is indeed that palliative that Nigerians are waiting for that would cushion the effect of fuel subsidy removal? That's what I'll be discussing with my guest who's seated in the studio right now, Dr. Akintunde Ogunsola. He's an economic expert and a social commentator. Thank you so much for being part of the program.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here with you today.
Yes, I feel honored. But we're talking about surviving the end of fuel subsidy regime, and I know that this is what Nigerians just want to know. And I hear that this is the time when some businesses can take advantage and thrive. Is that even possible?
All right. Talking about businesses taking advantage of this, there's no advantage per se, though there are little opportunities, but the advantages are very few. It rather is disadvantages and winding down for so many businesses this time, because the cost of running the business is actually going high. Cost of transportation, cost of running the business, cost of power, is actually going up, and that's affecting so many businesses now. They can't even afford to increase the salary of their staff from what they used to pay, and the staff are grumbling that they need to augment, their salary
to be commensurate with what's going
meet up with what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually no good time for businesses now, because inflation rates figure also came out to getting close to almost 25%, which is the highest, for so many years now. Nigeria is actually going through tough times now, but we are asked to be patient that very soon everything is going to be all right.
Right. I like where you ended that statement. Everything is going to be all right. What are those indicators that should make Nigerians discomfortable? Because we know that other governments, when they even thought about it, Nigerians would have been on the street, but it's quiet and Nigerians seem to be taking it in. First of all, why do you think that is? And then what can make us have this relief? What cushioning effect would indeed be the relief?
I think what has made Nigerians to be calm is because during the elections, all the presidential candidates actually agreed and promised that they were going to remove the subsidy, and all Nigerians were also in support of that. So as soon as the president announced subsidy is gone, and fuel prices changed, everybody accepted. Even Labour, that we were thinking we were going to protest and down tools, they didn't do that. They also said, okay, yes, this subsidy regime is long overdue, to let it go, and accepting that subsidy should go is what has actually put us where we are today. Government no longer regulates the prices anymore. Now it is the forces of the market, the rate of dollars, the price of crude oil, and also the cost of transporting, shipping these products down to Nigeria. Those are the things that actually make up for the price of these products in the country. So all of us are just waiting to see what the president is going to do, because the solution to the problem is not just to remove the subsidy, but the solution is to actually make us to start producing these petroleum products locally. There's something I also read today that even the president now, in 2011 or 2012, when President Goodluck Jonathan wanted to remove the subsidy, he told the president then that you have to make sure that the refineries are working before you can remove subsidy. Is in the papers.
It is. However, what's going on with our refineries? It seems like it's such a big hurdle to fix the refineries in Nigeria. Could that be the reason why he says, since this can't be done, let's put the cart before the horse?
I think the pressure that made the president to, move like that is because of the perceived fraud that everybody perceive in this subsidy regime. People believe that there's fraud, and truly we have actually seen the evidence. We've seen that the consumption rate of the country has dropped. So obviously it means, yes, there used to be some kind of fraud in the level of consumption that the NNPC was turning out then. So there's actually fraud, and the president wanted to curb this fraud in this subsidy regime. That's why he couldn't even think of what palliative, putting the refineries in order. He just said, no, from the day one, he just said subsidy is gone.
Right.
And everybody were, we all applauded and said, okay, yes, if this is the way to go, let's see how it goes. Having it in mind that Dangote refinery was also commissioned within that period. And people said, okay, since Dangote was commissioned, that means they will soon start production. And it means we'll now cut down importation. So everybody now relaxed and said, okay, let's see how this will go. But Dangote is not yet up. They said the refinery will start working by August.
Yeah, first week of August.
First week of August. Well, that's just about 2 weeks' time. We hope this refinery will actually commence that. But I think the president will have actually waited for the refinery to be up before removing the subsidy. That's one. Then secondly, it should have also planned a very good palliative just for the 2 or 3 months that we are going to feel all this pain. Right. But the president just, because of the corruption in that subsidy, he just removed the subsidy.
A lot of people have said we saved as much as 400 million naira, billion per month. Naira, yes, per month. And in our naive calculation, Nigeria so far has saved 400 billion naira as it is. When should we start hearing about the rollout of these palliatives? I mean, NLC can give the government so much time.
Yes, talking about the palliative, the president, turned out the 8,000 naira,
which I applaud.
That will be given to about 12 million Nigerians, 12 million households. Which is an idea that many Nigerians have actually given it a down thumb.
I frowned. I was the first person to scream out, how can you want to give cash palliative?
It's not workable.
It's not workable.
Also talking about palliative, the problem we have in the country is that everyone looks at the center, the federal government, but no one is even talking about the state government. Some state governments have given palliative. River State governments turned out some buses, at subsidized transport fare. I
hear free.
Okay, it's even free. These are palliative from state government. How many state governments are giving out palliative? Everybody is just looking at the center. President. It's not president, because now the gains from this subsidy is shared, based on the revenue sharing formula.
Exactly.
So it's not as if 400 billion that we are saving is going to only the federal government. It's being shared between all the states and local governments, and nobody is holding the governors of the states responsible for the palliative is supposed to give them. So I think Nigerians should also move to holding the state governors responsible for palliative. They should give them some palliative, or possibly, give some allowances if they cannot increase the salaries. The state governments have the right to increase salaries even before minimum wage is increased. These are the things that Nigerians need to request for as palliative, and not screaming that they should return back the fuel price to what it is before. No, we can't go back to the subsidy regime. We have already put our hands on the plow, and we just have to continue to move. So it's just to see how we hold our leaders at both the federal and the state government and the local government, to hold them accountable with what they share. I saw about in June, the revenue that they share was about 1.9 trillion. I think that's about the highest in the last more than 5 years. 1.9 trillion for facts to share. That means a lot of income revenue is now going to the states. far above what they actually budgeted that they were going to get. So the states also have enough funds, you know, to cushion the effect. And most especially, we have another problem, which is the food security.
Exactly.
We are not only battling with the fuel scarcity, we are also battling with food security too.
Which had dire reports before the fuel subsidy was removed.
Yes, so that is also there to battle with. So, and the fuel subsidy, the hike in the price of fuel is also affecting the price of food also. So there's a way government needs to look for, you know, a soft landing for Nigerians so that these pains and sufferings will be alleviated by the government.
Okay. Now, you just said we can't go back to the fuel subsidy regime rather. Why not? It doesn't seem like this government is ready to roll out. And Nigerians are facing harrowing realities at the moment.
Why I said we can't go back is because we should be looking forward. And looking forward means let us begin to produce this fuel and diesel and kerosene and gas locally. That is the way forward. So not going back and say, let's continue importing, let's be subsidizing. No, then it means we are going back to Egypt.
But Nigeria doesn't seem to be ready for this reality of fuel being produced. So
I think,
do you think the government should consider really going back just so that everything is in place? Okay, if we are relying on Dangote refineries, it's in place before we now decide to go on this subsidy. Apparently Nigerians support the government.
Yeah, we can't go back to that era because of, we know we are, you know, just what you said, we are saving 400 billion. It's a lot of money to be paying. And even if we, assuming we are still in the subsidy regime, it's going to be higher than that because of the exchange rate. Mind you, the exchange rate, the more it's going up, the more the subsidy.
Right.
So we are talking of 400 billion. Now, the being is now that the dollar to the naira is 800 or 850, going to 900 now. We are going to be talking about 600 billion per month. So we are saving a lot of money. So we can't say we are going back. Rather, what we are saving should be used to fix the refineries and ensure that they are working. Even if we can get just 2 working, while Dangote is also working.
It won't put so much pressure on the naira.
That will not put so much pressure on the naira. Our naira will, you know, we bounce back very strong, and the economy is going to be viable. And then the president can now also focus on the electricity that he promised Nigerians to be affordable and accessible. We have not even got into that. We are still battling with fuel price, you know, and all that. So there are still so much challenge for this government to solve, though they are just barely 60 days in office.
Barely 60 days, and all of a sudden Nigerians are facing so much pain. You must admit that it's really tough for Nigerians.
Yeah, that's why I said they have actually put the cart before the horse. They didn't, you know, think about how to bring palliatives to the table before taking away the subsidy. They didn't think about how we're going to fix our refinery within 6 months or within 4 months, giving themselves timelines for them to solve the problem. But they just said subsidy is gone. So that's why we are facing the problem. Had it been, they have a, you know, roadmap to subsidy removal. Yeah, we will have, you know, planned all what we need to do. Labor, all the stakeholders, Labor, NNPC, and other stakeholders will have been properly carried along, you know, in this. And that's why we are here. But we believe that we are going to be out of it as soon as we cut down importation of petroleum products.
Okay, let's talk about the food security or the food insecurity that Nigeria seems to be facing at the moment. What would be your suggestion to government if they want to solve this problem?
For the food security, yes, we are now in the farming season. First of all, government needs to turn out seedlings for farmers to actually go to the farm to plant. Make seedlings affordable, make it available, you know, for farmers to go and plant. That is one, so that by the time it's harvest period, we'll have enough food now to save in our, you know, food banks. Then secondly, now the prices are going up and the food are scarce. People can barely afford, you know, just 2 meals in a day. Government needs to turn out the savings of our food in the silos, in the food bank. Government needs to turn out, you know, some food stuff to the market to see that supply is actually increased, because what is causing the increase in the price is actually shortage in the supply of the food stuff. Government can release some of this food, like customs.
What would you say is the reason why we have this shortage in the food?
Shortage of supply. The shortage of supply of food. Because farmers couldn't go to farm, the insecurity was there. People are being kidnapped. But I think for the security aspect, we are actually coming out of it gradually. People, you know, the farmers that were held in captivity by kidnappers are being set free by the military forces now going around in the northwest.
So we're seeing a counter-attack.
Yeah, and people are being set free. And I think that's boosting the confidence, of farmers to go back to the farms. So if that is done, then farmers can now go back. They can get seedlings. They can get fertilizers. That will help us. That's the roadmap. But we know it takes minimum of 3 to 4 months before we can begin to harvest. So within the period of 3 to 4 months, government can roll out the food that is in our storage.
Do we have enough silos in Nigeria?
Yeah, it might not be enough because of our population.
But do we have enough to make any impact whatsoever?
But we have enough to actually cushion the effect now. What if what we have is actually turned out? It can actually reduce to some extent the sufferings and the pains of lack of food. But that's just the short run solution. We need to actually make our farmers to go back to the farm, give them all the incentives that can encourage them to go back to the farm, like the fertilizers, the seedlings.
I'm sure you must have read about the food state of emergency on food security. And when you looked at the plan the government has, does it give you confidence that it would indeed see that
yeah, of course. Many of us actually applauded that because that's the first time. Many Nigerians have been clamoring that why don't you declare state of emergency on food security, and successive government have been telling us we have not gotten to that level. But this government have taken the bull by the horn by declaring state of emergency, and we all said yes. That means he's actually hearing what people are feeling, from the feelers in all the part of the country, and that's why I did that. And looking at their plans, I think all these things I'm saying is also part of the plans, to see that they get fertilizers to the farmers, and to also see that they get improved seedlings to the farmers so that they can plant. We have the arable land in the country for us to farm and grow our own food rather than importing food. We have all what it takes, but for insecurity, that's why we are where we are. But I think the security situation is actually improving, and we have the chances of producing our food. But also there's something important that usually affects our harvest, which is flood. Exactly. You will recall in 2022 that flood ravaged over about 12 states in the country and washed away all what we planted and all that. So we need to also watch out for that. I think NIMET has given some directive, precautions on that. So we also need to watch that, because flood is also one natural disaster, that causes food shortage in the country. So those are the things that government needs to actually look into.
I agree with you, but very often when NIMET gives these projections, it ends at projections, and Nigeria seems not to know what to do to mitigate the flood and the attendant effect of it. What would be your suggestion? I mean, now we can plan. Now,
my suggestion to that is, what I see is when NIMET give that information out, they just give it out once and then they go back. It has to be a continuous reminder. They should continue to roll out this information maybe every week, or bi-weekly, or every month. The information should continue to go out. Some people, they might say they played it on TV as advert and all that, but some people will say we didn't even know that NIMET gave any information.
True.
So this information needs to be continuous. They should give it a lot of awareness, push it on the social media, on the mainstream media, and even the newspapers, and all media should continue to actually remind them so that they take precautions not to block the waterways with dirt and all that, so that we don't have too much flood in the country that will now wipe away all what we have planted.
Okay. Some experts, economic experts, had even projected that fuel prices may go up. We'll go to that conversation after this short break. Believe it or not, we've gone half hour. We'll go to that conversation after this short break. This is still Joy Asonye More. Asonye, remember, there's so much more, so stay tuned. Welcome back from that short break. This is still Joy Asonye Live, where we're discussing how we can survive the end of fuel subsidy regime. And we had taken the conversation and discussed how the government can do more in churning out those palliatives they had promised earlier. Now we will go to where experts, economic experts, had telling Nigerians to brace up, as we would be having more. Maybe the fuel prices, the pump prices may go up because it is dependent on foreign exchange. I'll be asking my guests now. Is it true that Nigerians should brace up, having looked at the market so far, that it could go as high as 1,000 naira per liter? And do you think we will survive it?
No, you don't. We don't need to put fears into the hearts of Nigerians. Just brace up; it will still go up, and then people say, where are we going? So we don't need to put fears into people. I think it will come down. Just like we said, we are expecting the local production to commence maybe in the next 1 month. That's what they said. But me, I'm preparing my mind for 2 months.
2 months?
Yes, by September.
Why September? Because
I don't want disappointment. Dangote Refinery said they will start.
You're protecting your heart.
First, yes, I don't want heartbreak.
Dangote Refineries had actually said ending of. They had said
they started with first quarter of 2023.
Exactly.
From first quarter, we are in second quarter now.
Exactly.
Second quarter has ended. We are in third quarter now.
Do you think the past administration was rushing Dangote so we have that launch by President Muhammad Buhari?
Yeah, I think they were actually rushing, because if they were not rushing, they wouldn't have rushed to actually commission what they know they are not commencing immediately. But I think because of the support that the outgone president have actually given the company, they feel it's going to be, a thing of honor for him to commission the refinery before leaving office. And I think that's just what they did. And then they grant him that honor, despite that they were not ready to start, producing. So that's what have actually happened. But notwithstanding, we don't need to put fears, just like what I was saying, in the hearts of Nigerians, that the fuel price will go up. What we should be putting our eyes on is actually the exchange rate. The exchange rate is going high. I said it's going close to 900 now. It's actually going up. And that is what is determining what the fuel price will be, alongside with the price of the crude. Because the price of crude is also above $80 per barrel now.
Exactly.
Which, when the price of crude goes up, we say, yes, we are making more forex. Nigeria is making more forex, but the forex will go out, by way of the marketers and NNPC, sourcing for dollars to actually go and buy the petroleum products. And that's where we have problem. So we need to find a way to ensure that the exchange rate goes down. Now, the question is, what is making this exchange rate to go up? This exchange rate is also determined by the forces of the market.
Right.
And what are the forces of the market? The request for dollars. People are requesting, they need dollars, they need dollars. Majorly, they are using these dollars to buy petroleum products. And some people are even hoarding these dollars because they're already preparing to go and buy again. I think the last vessel that came, the owner of that company was saying he spent about $19 million for about 27 million liters of petrol. So for you to get $19 million, you can't just walk to the market or to the banks and say, give me $19 million for me to go and buy it. They have to be buying it and be, keeping it and be hoarding it. And that's what is making the dollar to be scarce in the market. And that is making the price to actually go up. So the solution to this problem is we need to urgently look for something to do to start producing this fuel. We have modular refineries. They didn't work in the last administration. There are reasons why they didn't work. This government needs to look into that. We also have some other local refineries. Apart from the Dangote refinery, they should look for something to do. The Port Harcourt refinery, the NNPC told us that it would commence operation by the middle of this year. We've not seen anything happening.
It's not middle of the year yet. Never mind, just go ahead. I'll just be mysterious.
It's middle of the year, and we've not seen anything happening in Port Harcourt refineries. At least, even though Port Harcourt refineries can give us some, some liters.
Be it even in the region.
Yes, just to even support the region, and then it will reduce the pressure on the dollar to go and buy petrol. Now the pressure of the dollar is high because they've given marketers license. Marketers are in the market sourcing for the dollars. They are just buying and keeping, so that when the dollar is now much, they can now go and buy. Or as they are sourcing, they are sending it to the countries where they are getting the products from, and that is putting a lot of pressure on the dollar, and that is why the fuel is actually going up. So the immediate solution now is for us to make sure that either we find a way to see what we can do. Dangote refinery, they say, is over 95% completed.
Yes.
The 5%, they should look for what to do to complete that 5%, so that
I'm almost saying that we should roll it without the 5% and we start
even though they cannot produce up to the capacity,
exactly.
At least even though it's 50 million liters per day, they should just start something so that we can now cut importation. Once we cut importation, people will no longer look for dollar to say they want to go and import, and that will reduce the pressure on the dollar. The naira will bounce back. But as far as we are still importing, the pressure on the dollar will still be much. Apart from the pressure of sourcing the dollar to go and, import petrol, there are other things, like people that are looking for school fees to pay for their children abroad.
Exactly.
People are going for medical, medical services outside the country. They need dollars. People are going for business to import clothes, shoes, which we have been, advocating that people should wear and buy made in Nigeria products, so that the pressure on our dollar will reduce. So these are the activities in the market forces that is putting so much pressure on the naira and making the dollar to actually, the exchange rate to actually go up. We need to look for something to do to that.
Okay, the Dangote refineries, should it start working? I'm very optimistic. Should it start working in 2 weeks? Would you say we would see an exponential or drastic reduction in prices of fuel? That
is the word, drastic reduction. We are looking at as much reduction as 50% to 60% reduction in the price. The reason is because Dangote refinery already have an agreement with the federal government to buy this crude oil, which is their own input to the refinery, which is their own raw material. They already have the agreement to buy this crude in naira, not in dollars.
Right.
So if Dangote is buying in naira, and then government is now giving them at a lower rate, because they're also going to use the prevailing market rate to actually, give them that in naira, that will reduce the price of the petrol. We are no longer going to be paying for vessels to ship these products for almost 1 month, landing costs, exchange rates, because it's going to be buying in naira and selling all the products, the output in naira. That will reduce. Nobody will be sourcing for dollar again. As much as we are doing now, nobody will be sourcing for dollar to go and import. So that will make the naira to bounce back and become very strong. So that's what we are looking at. There will be a very drastic reduction in the price of the petrol.
Okay, for those who are very pessimistic and tell you a lot of people have been enjoying, it had been a conduit pipe for some people, what would be your advice to them?
That's the subsidy or the exchange rate?
The whole petroleum industry and
the
working of Dangote, because it feels like you will be cutting off a lot of people who make a lot of money from exporting and all that.
They are just a few percentage of the total, population of Nigeria. So we don't want to run an economy that only a few people are enjoying, and then millions of people, up to about 150 million Nigerians, becoming poor, multidimensionally poor. We don't want that kind of thing. We want everybody to do well on the average, not that some persons are enjoying and many people are suffering. So let those people that are enjoying, let them, they have already enjoyed, and I believe that they have enough money. So let's help our fellow Nigerians. Let them come out of poverty. Let them have, good life, better life to live for themselves, both in the rural areas and in the cities.
Right.
And that's what we want for the country.
So let's go to the transport sector, the transportation sector, where it seems to be biting hardest. What's going on with our CNG plan?
Oh, yeah. It's actually there. I think I read in the news today that Ogun State government are actually converting some buses to, buses that use CNG.
Right.
Those plans are still there. Government needs to take the first step you know, before they say others should, you know, follow.
With their 109 billion naira. That
yeah,
was,
we should see government staff buses being converted to CNG first. Then we, the private individuals, we can now follow suit to now begin. Let's use government as specimen now.
Exactly.
To test.
If they work as work.
To test the consumption, you know, and then the rates, the price and all that around that. But not that few people are doing that. Maybe those that can afford it are actually doing that. But we want government to, you know, lead the way. Let the president convert his vehicle to CNG.
Exactly. However, but I've also read that converting these vehicles can be as expensive as over 300,000 naira.
Yes.
And you're telling Nigerians.
In fact, with this inflation and the increase in price, it will be more than that.
Way more than that. And you're asking Nigerians to look for alternatives.
Let's see that the president's convoy is now using CNG. Let's hear that kind of news. Then others, not that the president is using fuel and they say, everybody can convert to CNG. No, I don't think that can work.
But is it actually cheaper to, I mean, have you read any analysis or done any analysis?
We've not even seen any analysis. The only analysis we are looking at now is the cost of converting. And then if you are talking of converting, we are also talking about the fuel price will soon come down when we start producing locally.
Right.
Now, if you spend 400,000, for example, to go and convert
your vehicle
to gas, it means that when the price of fuel now goes down, you will go and convert.
Please, it's for the win-win. I mean, for the environment, it's cleaner emission. So
it means once you convert, you just continue to use gas.
But isn't there a switch? Isn't there supposed to be like a switch? You go petrol, you go gas.
Yes, I think that works for the generators. I think today my generator parts, you know, importer was calling me today saying that, there's this gas, you know, for your generator sets instead of fuel, that there's a switch where you can, you know, turn to gas, there's a switch you can turn to petrol and all that. And I said, okay, I'm going to, you know, as an economist, I said I'm going to sit down and count my costs,
right,
and then look at the risk, because it's not just about cost. We also look at risk management around it. Which one has lesser risk? Then we go for it. If the risk is so high, and then we say because it's so cheap, let's just jump into it. And then we are now, you know, high risk.
I get really afraid of, especially gas. Gas
is highly inflammable, and anything can happen. And the brings out heat. So if it's not properly handled, we just begin to hear news of outbreak of fire, you know. So we need to look at the risk around it, and then we look at the costs. And then we look at the benefits, you know, of both of them. And then we can now move around the cost and benefit analysis to see whether it's good.
The much awareness that has to go around. I know that we're still trying to get people to understand how to deal with the regular generators we've had for only heaven knows when. And the fumes. You have been reading about fumes killing people and all that. So... Okay, but let's go to this food security. It's quite interesting for me, and I know some people had also suggested that a special transportation plan be given to our farmers. Now, with the insecurity going on, you had just said you had just commended the government as to their counter-terrorism or counter-attacks on bandits and the many dynamic clothes they wear these days. However, do you think farmers are indeed in that place where you can, after the trauma they've gone through? I read about the structured taxing system that is in place. Would it be another hurdle trying to get them comfortable enough to go back to the farms? There'll be another hurdle, because the fears will still be there for the meantime. You know, somebody that have passed through a lot of torments, you know, will still have that fear. Even when they say, nothing is happening, you will still be afraid to go to the farm, you know, to farm. But I think with the presence of the military guys, the police, like a kind of escort to the farm, you know. And what I heard they do is that they do cluster kind of farming. Let's say farmers in a particular local government now, they go to farm, all the farmers go to farm in like 5 people's farm together with escort of security. And then when they go there, they do that farm, then they shift to another place like that, and then they complete the farming for the whole local government, just to avoid the insecurity of these guys. And I think that is working.
That's actually working in the particular place. I heard they are doing that. I think somewhere, even in FCT here, some local governments, you know, some communities are actually practicing that, and it's working. That will help them a lot. But talking about providing special incentive for them, remember, the corruption level in Nigeria has not gone. The corruption is still there. When you give somebody money and say, go and share to the farmers, he will carry half of that money and put in his pocket first.
That's the past administration. This is renewed hope.
Okay. It's not angels.
This is renewed hope. So I'm hoping there is a more stringent method.
Monitoring and evaluation.
Right.
You know, when you give somebody money, you monitor how the person is implementing it, and then you audit the process, and then, you know, ensure that you give credibility to that process so that people can have confidence. Because when the president said he's sharing 8,000, people don't have confidence. They say, how sure are we that it will get to us?
That's true.
Yeah, because what has happened in the past has actually made people to lose confidence in all this. So what I actually expect is to do more, you know, provide more enabling environment for them to operate. That's just what Nigerians need. Nigerians don't need them to give them money, give them palliative, give them this. Just give them a conducive environment. Give them power, give them roads, you know, allow fuel price to go down. You will see they are going to perform a lot of things, and then our GDP will continue to go up.
Right. I mean, I listened to some comedy skits earlier. Somebody said that I really miss President Muhammadu Buhari. The guy was like a father to us. I could not stop laughing.
Because of what we are facing.
Yeah, because of what we are facing now. So in your parting words to us right now, what would you say Nigerians should do just so that this 620 naira per liter really, the effect is not too much on our mental health and on our economy?
I think what Nigerians should do is that they should continue to look for alternatives. There are still alternatives to fuel. There are alternatives to transporting. And one of that alternative is the ICT. You might not need to go, you know, transport yourself to go for meetings. You have 4 or 5 meetings in a day. You might not need to move, you know, around. You can just sit in the comfort of your room and connect to the internet and begin to discuss in the meeting. And you've been able to find another alternative around using the fuel. You can also make payments. You can, you know, process files online. You can do a lot of things with the ICT. So I think we should just leverage on the ICT as an alternative. And for those that are not conversant with the ICT environment, they are the ones that need to actually look for another alternative. Maybe you get a bicycle and begin to ride.
You didn't just say that. I stay in Asokoro, and this is Katampe.
You are ICT inclined, so please.
But there's nobody
ICT.
that would sit here. I can get a robot though, but I hear it's very expensive.
No, just try. Just tell us what you want the robot to do.
I want the robot to anchor the Joy Asonye Live program.
Yeah, you can build it, and once it is built, the robot can do that.
Okay, and what would I be doing in the meantime?
You are the one that will be telling the robot what to do wherever you are. You'll be controlling the robot here.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so would I get a robot replica of you, for instance?
Yes, it's possible. Because now we have artificial intelligence, AI, and robotics is happening live. You see a robot welcoming people to the bank.
Yeah.
Asking you, what can we do for you? And then you say, I want to withdraw. The robot say, how much? What is your account number? You know, and then once you supply those information, it just walk in there, count the money, and then bring it to you.
Yeah.
So it's like it's magic, but it's actually working.
I saw a robot deliver a meal.
Yeah.
It's now becoming part of the meal delivery.
It's possible. There are artificial intelligences that, you know, we can actually leverage. There are so many.
Okay, so before I let you go, we're talking about artificial intelligence. We're talking about the new age, this new age of ICT. However, what will happen to our jobs? Would we have cases where AI has taken our jobs, or robots have taken our jobs?
There are other jobs for you to do.
There are?
You have not really searched.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I'm happy you think so. I would try to explore the many other jobs. I used to think I have one talent.
These developed countries that are using robots, we see their unemployment rate still going down. Unemployment rate is not going up. And they have robots.
Food for thought. Dr. Akintunde Ogunsola, economic expert, thank you so much for being part of the program.
All right, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here again.
It is my pleasure to host you, but this is where we draw the curtains on Joy Asonye Live. Thanks for being part of the program. We'll be back tomorrow with plenty more, so do have a wonderful evening.